So there's a little bit of an element of communicating with your audience, knowing who your audience is and what you need to do. So, that applies to everything in life. It applies to giving a speech, but it also applies to thinking about your board and your shareholders and making sure that you understand what their needs are and where their heads are going to be at. It's really important to be thoughtful about where every dollar goes that comes into the company. Once you collect the dollar, it's not a given that you immediately take it and pay a bill with it. Sometimes you do, right? But then after that, you have to think through, well, how do I allocate this money to make the best return? And that's at a point where you need to really be thoughtful about the different stakeholders. So when I was in Uzbekistan, for example, the government there, they didn't care that much about profit. What they cared about was employment, and they cared about exports and making sure that we had hard currency coming into the country and the things that kind of drove that country to be successful in having a partnership in the business with us. That was a very different thought than when I was in other parts of General Motors, where the profit was always the number one motive. When I think about the company that I was recently at, not to name any names, but their motivation wasn't necessarily to drive to profit. It was definitely important, but it was more about making sure that we were growing. So we did tend to think about, well, we're going to use this dollar for M&A as opposed to investment in capital and that sort of thing. Are we going to use this dollar to invest heavily in marketing as opposed to investing in product development? So we made those choices consciously, and we made sure that we were thinking about the shareholders and what they would want and the board members when we made those decisions.